Can I just speak about,
Sure.
if you don't mind, I'd like to just talk about violent crime now, since we're already
Sure.
on the topic. I don't mean to take your time.
That's all right. He
But-
gets as much as he wants, and so do you.
But as you're, so I have a couple notes here, but as you're aware, Kansas City experienced another weekend. I feel like this is really loud.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
No, it isn't.
Kansas City has experienced another weekend of gun violence, and we currently are at an alarming number of homicides. We have a complex problem of gun violence in our neighborhoods and communities. I'd say we have a culture of violence where it's expected and accepted. And I have the unfortunate opportunity to speak about it here each month and weekly in the places that I find myself. On Sunday, I spoke to a grieving mother outside of the crime scene tape at 57th and Prospect. As I talked to her for just a bit, I noticed that she still had blood on her hands and on her feet and even on her cheek. And that was from her trying to render aid to her adult child. And I mention this because she's grieving a tremendous loss due to senseless violence in Kansas City. And she's a wife and she's a mother, and that's just like me. So all that to say that, I think part of the messaging that I've had is like, if you are a resident of Kansas City, you should be concerned if a life is taken by violence in our city. You should be concerned. It may not be happening in your neighborhood, but it's happening in Kansas City. And these are people just like me and you. So I just want to just kind of bring that home a little bit. But there are families grieving behind each one of these 97 homicide victims. 97 lives taken by violence in our city, and 97 grieving families in your city where we all live and work. And I don't want to get desensitized by all this violence. And I think, there is a part of us that, when you can look at the 5-year homicide analysis sheet, the blue sheet, you can predict there's going to be at least over 100 people killed in a homicide in Kansas City. And it's just unacceptable. And it's been like, and it's gone on far too long. And each one of these cases matters. Each one of them is a name with is a person and is a family who loves them. So most homicides in Kansas City are a result of people quickly resorting to violence to settle a conflict. I had one of my favorite sergeants today that I came up with in the Narcotics and Vice Division and Career Criminal section, who told me that he's like, Stacey, if this was a situation where, it was like a gang, a group violence that was taken over, that was, committing violence in our city, we'd get up on them. We would do targeted enforcement. We would, do any kind of things that we do as police, as law enforcement, to try to make sure that those violent offenders are taken into custody, they're stopped. But that's not what we have here in Kansas City. What we have is we're at a place in our society where people are just too quick to reach for a gun during an argument, to settle a dispute when believed to be disrespected, or to retaliate days to years later after a conflict. That's what we have. And that's why it's hard to prevent some of these homicides. Most homicides are relational, where the suspect and the victim have some knowledge of each other, or even tragically are family. We've had 4 confirmed domestic violence homicides this year, and not all domestic violence homicides are between intimate partners. Some are other family members, like I said before, and it's difficult to prevent those homicides. And I say all that not to say that we're not doing our part. In fact, I'm going to tell you how we're doing our part, but that this is a Kansas City problem. And that is why the whole conversation with it being a citywide initiative, it has to start with each one of us. Police cannot be in all places at all times, and nor should we. Police alone, we're not the only solution. We're not the end all be all. A violent crime strategy for Kansas City should not be a KCPD plan. But we have our own plan internally. We're actually expanding on that and working on it. Our Kansas City has to collectively step up and get involved in stopping violent crime. The people of our city have to make it known that violence will not be tolerated. It should no longer be expected or accepted. And those who commit violent acts should face consequences, significant consequences, to deter others from committing similar acts. I feel like like Mayor, we just stood up. I mean, we've talked numerous times since the last time we met here. And one of those was in May, where it was a call to action for our community to get involved. And this is yet another call to action from your chief of police to the community. Please stop the violence. Stop reaching for a gun in anger. Find a different way to settle conflict without a gun. I'm concerned for our youth who are growing up surrounded by violence with trauma as a byproduct. Our youth out here have guns. And just last week, we had a 13 and 14-year-old, he may have been 15, homicide victim. Where is the outcry for this young kid? I was Chief Forte's operations sergeant. And I don't remember if I was in the media unit or if I was his operations sergeant at the time, but it was after, I think it was after a little bit of the KC Nova, and we were starting to see another rise in violent crime. And I remember him authoring a blog about preventing homicides. And I looked it up last night, and it is the same thing that I'm saying today. And how it's difficult to prevent homicides because a lot of it is relational. People know each other. Now, if people are involved in conflict and we know it, and people let us know, we can connect people to, we can mediate ourselves right there and help out. We can bring in others. That's the whole thing with Partners for Peace. That's that whole other side of that, where law enforcement doesn't have to just come in and take over. That we can be the helpers. And we need to be in all places and all things, but again, a lot of this is not, we're not the end all be all here at the police department. But anyway, I could go on and talk about violent crime all day, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. I just wanted to let you know, what the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department is doing about violent crime. Again, I want to tell you again, because every time we see some of these things, these tragedies that happen in our city, well, what are the police doing? First, we show up every time. Many called out from home and immediately get to work helping people. I think the investigation on Sunday is indicative of that. On Sunday shooting, we worked that case until we got somebody in custody 12 hours later. And just when you have somebody in custody, that work does not stop there. It continues. We've had a homicide squad that had handled other unfortunate tragedies over the weekend, and then were called in early morning for the mass shooting. They further developed the shooting suspect, who has since been charged, and with updated charges expected as soon as today. And I appreciate their work, and so should you. The city appreciates their quick response and work on this case. So thank you to the homicide squad, Sergeant Fitzgerald, that worked that over the weekend. I was also listening to the radio on Sunday, and the coordination of the follow-up enforcement was conducted by elite professionals in our special investigations and special operations divisions. The teams you have working for our city are thankful to serve, and all should be glad we have them, and that they wake up every day and they choose to serve. I'm thankful every day that people still want to come here under such high scrutiny to still continue to serve and be police officers and put themselves in dangerous situations. So anyways, we are partnering and collaborating to address core issues of violent crime. We're working in the prevention, the intervention, and obviously the enforcement. We're working in prevention and intervention with Partners for Peace out of Mayor Lucas's office with Melissa Johnson. I mean, I could name all of the organizations that are unique to Kansas City, that are highly involved in what's going on here, like Ad Hoc, KC Common Good, Mothers in Charge, Center for Conflict Resolution, numerous social service agencies. We're out on scene side by side with neighborhood leaders like Pat Clark. I'm telling you, the conversation that was out there at 57th and Wabash on Sunday with 15 to 20 community members who care. Pat Clark was there, Tommy was there, and really, Pat stood up and just spoke life to people. had like real conversations about violent crime and how police are here to help, and how like getting in for the community to get involved in people that they know are coming in and out of their house with guns, and to stop that and to pull your youth to the side. Um, we host our own community events with our community engagement team. I mean, we're partnering with churches. Just a couple weekends ago, I was at Morning Star Baptist Church, where we had one of our recruiting tents there. United Believers Church, held the first listening session for me. We're hosting our own community crime meetings at each patrol division station to partner and empower community leaders with crime trends and prevention measures. And just what I was talking about with Councilwoman Robinson, the work's still going on here inside the department. When I came in, we did some restructuring. We changed some command staff around. We've put together this, and I don't say we. When I say we, I'm not just talking about KCPD. I'm talking about all, like community leaders come together for this citywide approach to violent crime. But we're not done. We're still doing a lot of work internally. We have a lot of conversations. We have a lot of plans. We are focusing on illegal gun crimes, enforcing existing laws, both state and federal. We're working with our prosecutors to ensure successful prosecution. We're strengthening our relationship and increasing our engagement with our federal partners. Last week, I was in DC at ATF headquarters, having conversations with my peer police chiefs and SACs of ATF across the country, having all kinds of conversations of how we can further combat the gun violence that's happening in our country. I have here on my notes focused deterrence model, the officer combination of enforcement, social service, and community engagement. Technology, we're working on a critical staffing with patrol. We have a new shift coming January 1 that's going to hopefully put more officers on the streets, where we could get a reprieve and have some downtime and be able to take days off so we can be refreshed to come back out and serve again, but also to make sure that we have high visibility and more officers on the street to handle the violence that we're seeing. We have Captain Boffman that is really focusing on place-based crime locations with the risk terrain modeling to put us in the right place at the right time with the resources that we have. I'm so sorry that I'm going on and on, but like, this is something I'm obviously passionate about. So we have a lot of things in the works here at KCPD in an effort to address violent crime. Despite the continuous rise in crime, we continue to work hard, and we're going to stay the course, and we will not be deterred.
Don't apologize. The community wants to know these things, and this is their opportunity to watch and learn. And so we appreciate you summarizing things that might be familiar to us, but they're not familiar to everyone.
Thank you. We will stay the mission because we wake up and choose to. Everyone in the city wakes up every day and has choices, and some choose violence. And we should all choose to no longer accept it and the harm that comes with it. I just want to say, just put a couple things out. I know that I've appreciated you coming to our pre-crime meeting. It's the behind-the-scenes conversation to see what we're doing, to learn about what we're doing about violent crime, and for Melissa Johnson to come every week at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, where we all convene with all of our partners to talk about the people who are involved in crime and how we're working together to solve these, address them. Also, we've been at press conferences, we've been at crime scene tape, so I appreciate I appreciate that, and I know that you're going to come to our shoot review tomorrow to see kind of what that's all about. Just one more point. It's so beneficial that in this position I'm allowed to go to some of these conferences and meet other chiefs of police, because we sit there. Because I talked to Austin about street racers. I talked to Denver. I talked to Louisville. I talked to Phoenix about what they're doing about non-fatal shootings. All of those ideas are shared, and it's not unique to Kansas City. Kansas City is unique. Whatever approach that we use here in Kansas City has to be tailor-made for Kansas City, but these same problems are happening in outside places. And I just want you to know your chief of police is open to these conversations. I'm asking and I'm seeking some of this information of how we could do better here in Kansas City. So I just want you to know that there's more to come. We're just getting started, but this is more of a call to action. And on the subject of violent crime, I could talk about it till the cows come home. And I know that's a Kansas City thing. Anyway, I just want to move past that. I do want to, I don't mean to take this from you too, but I do want to acknowledge something. So at the scene of the tragic scene on Sunday, I would just want to acknowledge that I do understand that there was a victim that was out in the street for what we felt like was too long. And I'm sorry for that. It was a large scene. We have wonderful crime scene technicians, and I cannot rave about our lab. That's another thing that we have that some other cities don't, that I'm just very proud of. But in that situation, we have one moment to capture that scene. And we have machines that we put out that do scans and cover that and do measurements that actually reduce that time. But in this case, I'm sorry that we had victims still at the scene for hours after the event. I think that the intent behind that was not to harm, but to ensure that everything was captured for the best successful prosecution of this case moving forward. But I will tell you that that's something that we're talking about and making a priority to figure out what that balance is between capturing everything and having that one opportunity to do that with the sensitivity of having someone who has lost their life and a family member seeing them still there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.